what are some of the biggest, so, and I think obviously if somebody signs up and or decides to go to the She Hunts camp, like they have a vested interest in attending that, and they've signed up to go there. But what are some of the fears and misconceptions you even see shift in them as they're there for a couple of days and they start to do these hands-on things and learn to mount a scope and shoot in a gun and these things? What would you say? Like, do you see that interest and fear kind of evolve while they're there to when they leave, they're a different person as far as their capability? And I'm sure it seems like that's kind of what gets you excited, is seeing that transformation happen.
It's really, it's there's some kind of magic sauce, and it is awesome to watch. And I have yet to figure out how to put it into my advertising, because wouldn't that be cool? Um, but something clicks, and it is the most amazing, fulfilling thing to watch when a woman comes in and says, I'm not a hunter, my husband hunts, I might go, but I just want to know more and we'll see. And she leaves and I can do this. This is great. I'm in, and we have so many women that have taken their first animal in camp. And we have such a supportive group, and they come back into camp honking their horn, and all the girls run out, and everybody cheers for them, and there's high fives and hugs, and it's like this awesome moment. We get to celebrate together. We all go to a skinny shed together, and it's so much fun. But I do think that one of the things is guns. It's firearm safety. So a lot of women come in timid of the actual firearm, and that's the first thing we address. So I tell them, a hammer is made out of wood and steel, just like a firearm. So you can't hit a nail with a hammer unless you swing it. It's the same thing with loading a rifle. So if it's unloaded and disabled, and I show them how a bolt works and what a firing pin is, it is just as safe as a hammer. There's nothing this thing can do. So we take it apart, I show them the pieces, and then they're able to mount their scopes the first day when they get there with the bolts out, obviously. So they touch the guns, they get familiar with the guns, they understand what they're dealing with. And I feel like that just eliminates a lot of the anxiety that women show up with. You hand a woman a piece of equipment of any kind that she's never played with or had time to spend with, she's going to have the same, how do I use this, as firearms. And unfortunately, because it is a dangerous piece of equipment, we don't use it or handle it until we're actually going to shoot it. So there's no familiarity, there's no muscle memory. So we really try to, obviously remove the bolt, make sure it's 100% safe, and then get them comfortable touching it.
Yeah, I mean and that's not just women either. Like as I said, I grew up on a farm handling guns from the age of 4. And what I realized very quickly when we would have friends who were more from like the suburbs come over that was like 40 minutes away is like, we have 22s out. We're like 9, 12, and like 13, me and my brothers. And like, it was just so natural. And then, as you said, like you give somebody a gun that's never had one, and you can literally see it in their being. And you're in the military, Bear. Like that's a whole nother level at the level you guys get trained at. But it was always fascinating to see that. And it is cool that you're kind of tackling that head on and saying like, hey, here's a stepwise fashion that we can get you more comfortable. Because if you're not exposed to it growing up, like being around guns in general, I know for a lot of people makes them extremely uncomfortable. So yeah, it's really cool that you guys have a methodology for kind of approaching that and getting, and specifically females, more comfortable with that.
Yeah, especially as girl dads, man. We got to start thinking about that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not yet, but I always wonder.
Send them over.
I don't need my daughter to like become a Navy SEAL or anything, but like I definitely want to teach her a lot of the things, you know what I mean, about
sure.
being able to defend herself and being proficient with a firearm and having some basic ability to land nav and, build a shelter, you know what I mean? So that, I love what you're doing, because I would imagine that you see that transformation. It's probably honestly just a great time for the ladies to bond and get away from regular life for a minute. I'm surely probably helps the marriage too, if they can go hunt with their husband.
Or makes it worse.
Yeah.
The guy's shutting down.
Man.
I'll tell you, if you've ever tried to teach your wife how to drive a manual vehicle, it's about the same on the range for a lot of husbands and wives.
Oh my God.
It can be extremely frustrating, especially, there's all those interrelationship dynamics that come into play, and you want to please them and you don't want to let them down. And there's all this stuff. And because last week I did this not wrong, I want to do this perfectly. We don't have any of that. So they can learn from us and then go confidently shoot with their husbands instead of feeling like a lesser and they have to learn from and ask for help. And, it helps.
It's such a funny dynamic because, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I one time was a married man. She actually owns the business with us. And anything that I was legit good at, which is not that many things, but a couple things, if I tried to teach Mal if it was coming from me, you know, I could have been the best whatever in the world at it. And it's like she will not receive that feedback. But then someone who's like a CrossFit L1 cert that just got their like certification like a week before is showing her how to do like a power clean, and she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, I tried to teach you that 50 times, and I could power clean 350 pounds, and you don't listen to me.
There's the there's the
That's why
interpersonal
she
relationship.
works, guys.
Yeah, no. So
Literally is.
that's brilliant. But now I think of like, how would a hunt go down? You know what I mean? That could be horrible.
And it's as Brittany knows as well as anyone. Like it's those are intense moments. Like and depending on each hunt has its own flavor, but like especially if you're in the backcountry with your wife and like there's a whole nother dynamic kind of happening. Actually, I heard when I was prepping. So Christy Titus she's reps kind of our outdoor brand, and I heard you on a podcast with her, and I heard you both laughing about Christy was talking about how she did an 11-day backcountry hunt with her husband, no shower, like in a tent. And then I think you said like, I did that at the beginning of my relationship.
Yeah.
Is that true? And if so, how long was yours, and what hunt was that?
So I was just retiring from TV when I met Brad, and I invited him to go on the last 2 episodes that I had planned for Petersen's Hunting Adventures. And he was like, "Sure, where are we going?" And it was actually a back-to-back hunt in Romania and then Kyrgyzstan. So it was like 20 days, 10 days each. Romania had showers. Kyrgyzstan did not. And Romania was like up at the top of mountains in waist deep snow. And then Kyrgyzstan was 10 days on horseback, packing everything on our horses with us. And it's a good tester for a new relationship. I'll tell you what, we had a blast. It was awesome. I actually fell waist deep into snow, and he grabbed my backpack strap and was able to pull me out. And I realized that's why you date a guy that's 6'5". So that worked great.
And was he a hunter before you got like?
Yes.
Had he hunted? He was. Okay.
Yeah, we actually met because he had booked his first ever African safari with Dirk DeBod, who I had hunted with on my first African safari in 2003, and he was coming to pay his final payment on that hunt, and that's how we met, actually, in the booth at SCI. So no, he was a hunter. He hunted, but he's from Arizona. He hunted mostly mule deer, elk, Arizona stuff, North American stuff, and he was just starting to do his more international hunts. So we did it the other way, and I still haven't killed a bunch of stuff in the U.S. because I wanted to do all the hard stuff and then have kids and do the easy stuff. It's not really easy, but you know what I mean.
As somebody who spent 15 years in 15 years, correct, you were doing like outdoor television. What is, I mean, that other than maybe Sports Center, I grew up, that's all I would watch was either hunting or Sports Center. What is that dynamic like? And what you see on TV, like what is the actual behind the scenes? Because there's always, I mean, we've had actors on here, we had a stuntman on here who like give the true behind the scenes look at like what's actually happening. How would you talk about or speak about kind of the behind the scenes on a hunt that like gets mashed into a 30-minute or 60-minute episode?
I think the creative process behind it is super fun. That's the part that I miss the most. Because you show up in a country with a cameraman and you have to come home with enough clips to tell the story fluently. So, for example, the first time I was alone, just sent off to do it, was a show called The American Huntress. And a lady, Linda Donahoe, she had just had her first grandchild and she wanted some more time. And so she brought me on as a host to split the 13-episode season load with her. And so I took 6 of those episodes the first year. And so the first time we show up there, I brought home what I thought was an episode. And she goes, "Well, where's the shots of the wheels spinning on the truck as you drive out in the morning? And where's the sunsets and sunrises?" What? I didn't know that was part of it, right? So finding a way to fluently tell the story that gives the viewer every bit that they need, that's really the fun part for me, is coming up with a shot list, executing all of that, and then piecing it back together so that it tells the story the way it happened or the way you want it to happen, depending on the show. That was super fun. It was very creative. I also think that, there's stuff that I don't miss. The recreates are not fun, because in the moment with one camera person, you can't get you shooting and the animal going down. So all of the person on the gun pulling the triggers are usually recreates. And that part's no fun because you gotta be serious when you got a dead animal waiting there and you want to go skin it and do the stuff, and you got to go back and do the recreate and then pretend everything's happening in real time.
That's funny.
I know you, and that's what I've heard is like you almost, and Aaron's even talked about it, is like you have your moments where like you can be in the moment, but it does, whereas a normal hunt, you're really in the moment, especially if you're back in or out in the middle of nowhere. It does create a level of, like you said, kind of like, okay, now you're doing this, and it can break that kind of flow. But that's any filming. Like you're gonna have that, as you said. There's no way to capture that in a kind of continuous story without kind of chopping it up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, when you're high
that.
budget and you have multiple cameramen, yes, then you can do it. But we were never there.